Hello all, welcome back to Code Hub. Today let us solve the Lead Code's daily challenge and the problem is insert interval. You are given an array of non-overlapping intervals where intervals of I denotes start I and end I, represent the start and the end of the ith interval, and the intervals is sorted in ascending order by start I. You are also given an new interval, the start I and end I, that represents the start and the end of the another interval. So insert new interval into the interval such that the intervals is still sorted in ascending order by the start I and the interval still does not have any overlapping intervals. That is, we want to insert the new interval into the intervals array, intervals vector, and we also should make sure that whether the intervals are overlapping or not. If it is overlapping, we want to merge the intervals. So finally, we want to return the intervals after the insertion of the new interval. That is the problem states. So now let us try to see the example 1. In example 1, 3 is an interval and 6, 9 is an interval. As you can see, this is not overlapping. We don't want to do anything, but we want to insert this new interval first and then only we want to check whether it is overlapping or not. So what we can do is, first we want to see the approach for how we can merge overlapping intervals. So before seeing that, what we can do is we can insert the new interval first into the intervals, and then what we can do is we can just sort the intervals vector once again. So after this is sorted, what it will be looking like is 1 comma 3, then 2 comma 5, then 6 comma 9. As you can see, this will be the sorted intervals once the new interval is inserted into the intervals vector. So now we want to merge the intervals if it is overlapping, and as you can see 1 comma 3 and 2 comma 5 are overlapping, so we can just say 1 comma 5, and 6 comma 9 is not overlapping, so we can just put the 6 comma 9, and finally you can see this is the result, 1 5 and 6 9. So this is how we can just do this problem. So for sorting, it takes an order of NlogN, and after sorting we are going to do a merge intervals. Merge intervals, it is going to take an order of n. So the total time complexity will be order of NlogN, and the space complexity for this approach will be order of n. Since we will be having another resultant intervals which we are going to maintain to merge the intervals once it is sorted. So we want to find how we are going to merge these intervals first. As you can see, if there are two intervals, let us say we have sorted the intervals vector, and it looks like this: 1 comma 3 and 2 comma 5. This is one interval and this is the second interval. So when this overlaps and when this does not overlap, that we want to make sure how we are going to find it out. So we can say first, we can see for the non-overlapping case. Non-overlapping case is nothing but if we consider this as the previous start and the end, this is the current start and the end. So now let us say the previous end is lesser than the current start, then this does not overlap. So this is the case for the non-overlapping case. But what if previous end is greater than or equals to the current start, then this is going to be the overlapping case, right? So as you can see, 3 is greater than or equals to 2, so which is an overlapping case. So this is the overlapping case. Previous end is greater than or equal to current start. But now what we are going to do is how we want to update the end. As we know that 1 comma 3 and 2 comma 5 are overlapping, and we just update their end pointers because it is sorted intervals. This start does not going to change at all because 1 is the smallest start interval that is going to have for compared to these two intervals. So we just don't want to change the start, but we want to change this end. This end can be either this previous end or this current end. Why so? If this is the two intervals 1 comma 3 and 2 comma 5, the maximum of 3 comma 5 is 5, so we can just put 1 comma 5 as the interval after merging them. But what if this interval is going to have 1 comma 7 and this interval is going to have 2 comma 5? In this case we want to put the previous end as maximum of this previous end and current end, which is nothing but maximum of 7 comma 5, which is 7 itself. So still this 7 stays the same, because this interval we can just omit them, because this interval is just overlapping and it just falls inside this interval 1 comma 7 itself. So this is the two cases in the sense this is the only case when it is an overlapping. We can just update the previous end to be maximum of the previous end comma current end. So this is the cases that we are going to have for the merge intervals. So now let us try to code the approach soon, and hope you understand the logic behind this. We can just first insert the intervals, insert the new interval. That we can do just in order of n, intervals dot pushback of new interval. So we have just inserted the new interval. Now we are just going to sort the intervals array, sort the intervals vector, but this is going to take an order of NlogN time complexity, and we can just do it like this: sort of intervals dot begin comma intervals dot end. So this is how we can just sort the intervals vector. Once it is sorted, we want to merge the intervals. For that, what we can do is we can just put have a vector of vectors, vector int merged interval. That is going to be my answer, right? So that I'm just keeping merged intervals. We can just say merged intervals. I'm going to return at the end of the day. Great. Now we have the merged intervals. So now how we are going to merge the intervals? We can have two pointers that is going to traverse in this merged intervals, and the other pointer which is going to traverse in this intervals vector. So what I can just do is first I will just have two pointers, int I is equals to 0 and j equals to 0, and initially I can just have this as 1. I will just explain why I'm declaring j as 1. I will just push the first interval into my merged intervals initially, because without the one interval I just want to handle other cases. So instead of doing that, I'm just pushing the first intervals into my merged intervals of 0. So now I have just done. Now what we can do is, while j is lesser than intervals dot size, and for each and every loop I'm going to iterate the j plus plus. Now what we want to do is we want to just update if it is overlapping. If it is not overlapping, no problem. So what we can do is, now we can just have non-overlapping first. Non-overlapping is nothing but if my previous end, this is the non-overlapping case, previous end is lesser than the current start. Previous end is nothing but the merged intervals. I will just have two variables, int ampersand previous start, because I'm going to update, right? So that's why I'm just having it in reference. Previous start is nothing but the merged intervals of I0, and in ampersand previous end is equals to merged intervals of I1. But I think we just don't want any previous start at all. It is enough that we have the previous end itself. So Previous end is nothing but merged intervals of I1. Now we want to have the current start. Current start is nothing but, we can have this as a normal variable. Current start is nothing but the intervals of j0 and int ampersand current end is nothing but intervals of j1. So we have the previous end, current start, and the current end. Now what we can just do is we can just check whether the previous end is lesser than current start. Previous end is lesser than the current start. Then what we know is it is not overlapping case. What just, so this is actually non-overlapping case. If it is non-overlapping, what we can do is we can just push the current interval into my merged intervals. So merged intervals dot push back of merged intervals dot pushback of intervals of I, because this is, sorry, intervals of j, because this is not overlapping. Once it is not overlapping, we want to increment our I pointer as well. But what is the other case? Else case is nothing but overlapping case. Overlapping is in the sense previous end is greater than or equal to current start. If it is so, we want to update the previous end. Previous end is nothing but the maximum of the previous end comma current end. I guess even this current end can be as a normal variable, because we want to update the previous end only. Previous end is nothing but the maximum of the current previous end and the current end. So we can just have this case, and that is enough, I guess. And finally we are just returning the merged intervals. Now let us try to run our code and get and see what it happens. Okay, that is a error. Sorry, I have just done a typo here. Let's start. Now we can just type it, run it. Great, it gets accepted, and let us submit the code as well. Great, it gets accepted. Hope you like the solution, and let me know in the comments if there are any suggestions. And the time complexity for the solution will be order of NlogN, and the space complexity will be order of n. Okay, let us see in tomorrow's LeetCode daily challenge. Until then, bye.